There it goes. Another day.
Ready to go? All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's regular board meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We have met compliance with official notifications. Roll call, please.
Brooke Taylor.
Here.
Diana Smith.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Nick Schumacher.
Here.
I am of course here. President Steve Olson.
Here. This time, would you all please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody, again for being here this evening. Regular board meeting action taken at today's meeting will be final approval unless otherwise noted. In our first section of the regular meeting, we have comments by members of the public. And I want to keep this sheet open for you in just a moment so you can understand or see where I'm coming from. I know that podium's in the way, isn't it? We recognize there are people here tonight to discuss 3K and RAP care. It is important to note that the decision around balancing the budget through program or staff reductions is the role of the school district's administration. The board in and of itself is not responsible for the day-to-day operations or the management of the school district. We approved the 24-25 budget as required by state statute on October 31st, 2023. Many decisions still need to be made by the administration as to cuts needed to be made to ensure the district has a balanced, sustainable budget for 24-25. In an effort to be consistent, however, and transparent with all of you, with past practice of allowing the public to speak on items not on the agenda, we will move forward with each speaker this evening. However, we will follow the 3-minute time limit for each speaker. So with that being said, this is a meeting of the Board of Education held in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for comments by the members of the public during the meeting as indicated on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to address the board on any of the topics included on tonight's agenda may do so by signing up public comments sign-up sheet prior to the start of the meeting. The board requests refraining from making any comments involving personally identifiable information about students, staff, or administration. Comments should be respectful, focused on the items being considered by the board, and will be restricted to 3 minutes in length. Again, we will break from our normal process, and at this time, we have only 2 speakers. If you still wish to speak before the board this evening, you may do so and sign up at this time. Is there anyone that wishes to do that? Okay, we will move forward. So our first speaker this evening, Megan Kleiman. Hi, Megan, come on.
I stand up. Okay. Should I go here?
Sure.
Hi, I'm Megan Kevin. I wanted to come in and speak tonight about the 3K and RAT care decision. I understand that the budget was already set kind of in 2024, but I just wanted to kind of reiterate how important this program is to my family. I currently have a child in 4K that utilizes RAT care and a child in 3K that would be going into the 4K program. I've just seen great growth in my 2 children using this program versus like a daycare program that has like the 3K and the 4K. I feel like my daughter has really grown socially and being kindergarten readiness through the 4K program, and it's just been huge. Again, same thing with my son. He's in the 3K program. I was super excited for him to be full-time in the 4K program, just to take that extra step for being more ready for kindergarten once it comes around. I also then have another little one that would be going into the 3K program in another 1.5 years. I know that's a ways away, but again, I was already planning ahead, as most parents do. I was excited to put her in that setting where she can thrive. Another like asset to the program that isn't utilized or as readily available was my son was assessed for like a speech issue in the school, and being able to have that asset, the speech therapist come in and have him evaluated for additional needs, something that might not have been caught until kindergarten. He just then is on the right track to be, you know, caught up with everybody else. And I think that's a huge asset to him and his development throughout, you know, as he grows up. I understand like the budget has been set. But again, I just really want to drive home the importance of this program to us and our family, and how it's not feasible for us to have just a 3-hour time in the middle of the day to go and pick up our son and bring him to another place. I'm a working parent. My husband is a working parent. And to do that, it's just not possible. So he's going to be in that 3K program at daycare where he's not going to get the kindergarten readiness. And that just is developmentally delaying him, I feel like, from being in the school setting versus a daycare setting. Like, the program just offers so much to him and my family, along with every child that is in attendance with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
Our next speaker is Kyle Smith.
That doesn't count. I just want to make a few comments about the proposed in-service that you're going to be talking about tonight. At the end of, so when I heard Crystal and Kate present their plan last week at the committee of the whole, I knew there was going to be some questions and concerns by teachers. After Crystal's email was sent out to all the teachers, it did not take long for me to receive emails and texts from concerned elementary teachers. I immediately reached out to Crystal. We set up a meeting with Kate, Crystal, myself, and Megan Marthaler last Thursday to bring up questions, concerns, and possibly alternative solutions that could be shared, that have been shared with us. Megan, I appreciated Crystal and Kate's candor about the situation of fulfilling this unfunded mandate, as Brooke had mentioned. I believe we left the meeting with a better understanding about the situation and the constraints the district was trying to come up with a viable and fiscally responsible solution. I put an email out to our members explaining the questions and answers discussed in that meeting. One point that was made clear from our meeting, and I tried to relay this in my email, is the fact that Chris understands that there are some teachers who are unable to attend because of prior commitments. Case in point, if this training was applied to secondary teachers, I would not be able to attend because I go on an annual fishing trip the very week after school, and reservations are made in November. As I said, Chris understands these are trips planned and other commitments that teachers have made on June 10th, 11th, but Crystal stated there will be a plan B for those unable to attend those 2 days of training. But requiring days outside of our contracted days are not unprecedented. For example, about 7 years ago, we were required to sign up for, I think it was Power School training, looking over to Crystal, some kind of training before our in-service days. I believe Crystal said all but 2 teachers attended the training. However, a big difference I see between then and now is that training was for a couple of hours, at most a half day. More importantly, teachers had flexibility of dates to pick that fit their schedule. This plan requires 2 specific set days of training, as we were told, due to the constraints of training and having an outside facilitator. Chris also mentioned in the email regarding the additional days outside our contracted days would be compensated by the extended rate of pay. Typically, summer work is on a voluntary basis, whether it's work on curriculum or efficiency tables, but the key word is voluntary. I don't know what you all do for a living. However, I'm guessing if your boss said we need you to come in for 2 days on days off, on your days off to work, and by the way, you're going to be paid less, you want to be really thrilled about it. Another concern was raised about teachers with younger children is the cost of additional daycare that was not planned for. Maybe a solution could be elementary schools can provide some childcare, maybe at least on those last 2 days with aides that wouldn't normally be working. Again, Megan, I appreciated meeting with Crystal and Kate and their candor. This is not an ideal situation. There are a lot of moving parts. I'm not going to make everyone happy with any plan, but hopefully there's time to improve on the current situation, either logistically or financially. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Okay, next up on the agenda, disposition of minutes from December 11, 2023. Is there a motion and a second to approve?
Make motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the disposition of the minutes from December 11, 2023. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next up on our agenda tonight is our report from the superintendent. There were no action items, there were no discussion items. There were informational items.
Yes,
Thanks.
I have one new informational item tonight, our Spartan Showcase. So I want to just share with you who we've honored this month for our Spartan Showcase. We have Mackenzie Peterson is here, so welcome, Mackenzie. I'm going to just read a little bit about what the nominations said about Mackenzie. It says she's a wonderful student who makes our school a happier, brighter place. She's a peer mentor in our special education classrooms and makes connections with students that she works with. She's also a peer mentor where she works as an assistant in the before school program at Great Lakes and the after school program at Northern Lights. She's a true example of work, respect, belong in all areas of life. She's an amazing asset to our district. She comes with passion in providing inclusive experiences for students. She continually goes above and beyond to brighten our days. And I said she is going to be a wonderful teacher someday because I see all those traits in her in the nomination. So we were able to recognize her in the classroom last week, I guess that was. And so I just want to say congratulations again for being nominated. Want to get a speech? All right. Our second honor was for Christy Biolo. She was our staff that was recognized. And I just want to talk a little bit about Christy. She is the secretary at the high school. The high school runs smoothly because of Christy. She is self-directed and takes care of everything before it even becomes a problem. And she wears many hats. She supports our students, staff, subs, parents, and community members and does it so well. She notices when something needs to be done and she does it. If there's an issue, she works to resolve it. She notices that something or someone is off and she tries hard to give them the support they need. She's an amazing person all around, an asset to our district. So we recognize Christy too this month.
Nice to have her return.
Yes, yes. And she's,
Couple of years, but
yeah, she's a great asset. Yep. So congratulations to Christy and the. And we have Autumn here for our high school update. Welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, I was a little late. Got caught up at hockey practice, but over breaks there wasn't as much to report on. But first off, before break, we had our music concerts. So on December 18th, the music department performed their holiday spectacular, and this included all departments, including orchestra, band, and choir. And then also in the music department, the week before break, they headed out to the elementary schools. So that was pretty cool to give the young kids a taste of what the high school music is like. Some of our spring sports have started their open gyms, and then also in the athletic department, our Spartan Supercards are in full swing. So that's for students to go in and scan, and then there'll be drawings and stuff to see who the super fan is by the end of the year. So we've been seeing good participation and hope to see that increase. Our DECA club traveled down to UW Stout this weekend, and that's where they competed in their district competition. So there was good success, and many students are headed to state here in late February. And then also our Harvard Model UN team will be going to Boston in January, so that's pretty exciting. And the end of the semester is approaching, so watch out for deadlines and stuff like that, along with scholarship applications need to be in. So
When does that deadline?
the Nelson is January 19th.
Okay.
I got that one.
I know, that's why I asked.
So that's, oh, and then within student council, we had our holiday dress up week and that went well. So good success there. And then upcoming is our snowball. So we've been planning and stuff and preparing and getting ready for the day. Ticket sales will start this Wednesday. They've been running online, but in-person ticket sales, our treasurer is out for a while, so they got delayed, but that's coming up. It's happening.
All right, thanks for the update.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pretty cool to see the boys basketball team, the 1974 jersey replica
Yeah, the red.
with the red. They wore that at the state tournament when they won. Yes, that was old enough to be there.
I said it was boring.
Not a bit. Also, informational items at the committee of the whole meeting on January 2nd, the following information was brought forward and presented. We have a new agreement. The NBC Spartan Sports Complex with sponsorship and naming rights. We finalized final signature tonight and stuff, and you will get copies of that agreement sent to you by Ann.
Did anybody have, did you have any additional questions you want to share? Or does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, okay. I answered some for Ed. Yeah, okay. We have some existing scoreboards that were donated in honor of a student, and that expires this year. So, and not all of our scoreboards will be replaced, just the main one on one wall.
We also had our WIA winter sports co-op agreements in gymnastics, girls hockey, and boys swimming. Notification of those. Activities Director Ella Olson gave a report on each one of those activities, and then the numbers of each one of the groups and stuff and how it looks going forward. We did receive from SAHA, from one of their members, a very lengthy report of the number of kids that are participating, girls and boys, in hockey and what it looks like. Principal Kim O'Donnell shared updates from Four Corners Elementary School, and Principal Aaron Fezzi shared updates on Superior High School. We next move to our board committee reports. Committee of the whole met on Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. Board members in attendance were Diana Smith, Nick Schumacher, Nick Olson, Brooke Taylor, Ed Galler, and President Olson. Action taken at the committee of the whole meeting is forwarded to the recommendation tonight for final consideration, unless otherwise noted on the committee of the whole agenda. The first report was our Personnel and Negotiations Committee. We have two action items. The first action item, administration recommends approval of the January 2024 new hires and separations report.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Again, we noted one of the smallest lists we have witnessed in many, many years. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Administration recommends approval of the changes to the employee handbook for the 2023-2024 school year per the attached summary. Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve administration's recommended approval of the changes to the employee handbook for 23-24.
Can I add just a comment to that?
Yes.
This is just a reminder, this is specific for this year's handbook. We still will bring recommendations for next year's handbook like we typically do in April. This was to address the specific impacts of staff reductions that will happen this spring and the closure of Lake Superior to make sure that that process is the way we want it to be. So that's why that's happening now and not later.
Thank you for that update and reminder. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There were no discussion items. There were no informational items. This time I would accept a motion to accept the Personnel and Negotiations Committee report.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion and second to accept the Personnel Negotiations Committee report. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next was the Budget and Insurance Committee action items. The first one, gifts, grants, and bequests. The administration recommends approval to accept gifts, grants, and bequests received in December of 2023.
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second to accept the administration's recommended approval for the gifts, grants, and bequests for December 2023. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. The next action item, open enrollment. The administration recommends 60 spaces for general education open enrollment and 0 spaces for special education open enrollment for the 24-25 school year.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept the open enrollment recommendation of 60 spaces for general education and 0 spaces for special education for the 24-25 school year. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. There were no discussion items, informational items. We have the reports of our Fund 10 revenue and expenditure preliminary reports. Any discussion on these two items?
Motion to accept budget and insurance committee report.
Second.
It's a motion and a second to accept the Budget and Insurance Committee report. Again, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Teaching and Learning Committee, the action item this evening, Act 20 training requirements and the 2023-24 calendar adjustment.
To approve so we can get to discussion.
Second.
Motion and a second for the Act 20 training requirements and 2023 calendar adjustments.
Can I say a couple things in response to Kyle's comments? First of all, this action item is just to approve the calendar tonight, not necessarily the training plan. We were hoping that the board would approve that the elementary could get out 2 days early. So that instead of teachers having 4 days in the summer, they'd only have 2 days in the summer. They'd be responsible for reduce that. I think it's important to note, and I guess I'll lean on Crystal or Kate if they have any more they want to add, but I think it's important to note that this is not something we're rolling out. This is a state requirement, similar to it's a teacher's responsibility to obtain their own license. This is the same thing. It's a teacher's responsibility to make sure they have this training to be employed as a teacher, an elementary teacher in the state of Wisconsin. So it's not necessarily the district's obligation to provide the training, but we're choosing to provide the training to create the time and space and to pay them for that. So if teachers chose not to do that, they'd have to do that on their own time outside of the structure. Other schools aren't necessarily providing the same structure we are, but we think it's the right thing to do. So, but you know, to be able to train many teachers as we have that require this training compared to smaller school districts, it's a much more logistical nightmare when you're trying to plan that out. And the time frame that the state has outlined has not been helpful. So that's frustrating on our end. The other thing I just want to mention, I think also some of this will be clarified if the board does approve this action item tonight, we will send out a much more comprehensive message to the staff so that they know what the whole plan is. Because we just shared information that we brought this forward to the board. We'll roll out the plan in entirety this week so that that's really clear. And then the last thing I just want to mention, and I don't know if Crystal and Kate have anything to add, but when we try to figure out how the payment for this would happen, we refer to the handbook. So whether we pay teachers a stipend, extended contract pay, or per diem, those are our 3 options. Those are outlined in the handbook. So we follow the handbook when we roll this out. That's how that decision is made. Crystal or Kate, did I miss anything or speak?
I'm going to speak to shared leadership team tomorrow night. We'll share the details of the plan with them and then send it out to all teachers on Wednesday. And I'll reiterate what we, shared with Kyle and Megan when we met with them. If there is a teacher who has extenuating circumstances that, they have a flight booked for June 10th, obviously, as we have in the past, we will work with those people to ensure that they are able to finish their training in some way. We we're gonna have to be mindful of other options or backup plans because we will not have funding, from ESSER funds to support this after September. So we're gonna need to just be mindful of what those other plans will be, but we understand there are going to be a few folks who have extenuating circumstances.
I think hearing from teachers or even Kyle speaking tonight, the biggest concern was what if they do have something they're committed to on those other days? So it sounds like that will take care of it, that there will, and people may be sick. So there has to be alternative options for those students. And
to really answer what those things look like, we have to run the scenarios by some of those things by the facilitators and the trainer that we have to sign a contract with that is following the law of what the training needs to be for the amount of hours and the modules that have to get completed. So I have a meeting about that on Wednesday to run through some of the scenarios that have been brought up, of course, already about extenuating circumstances.
Crystal, is it safe to say that the training that we're providing, we're limited in what our options are and who we, it's not like we can just choose any vendor out there. We're very limited in who does this training. Is that accurate to say?
Yes, and they charge the state with coming up with a list of approved trainings that you can contract with companies for. There are about 6 or 7 on the list. We have talked about them, vetted them. Some are much longer, cost more money, require more seat time, et cetera. So we've chosen the one that truly we believe we can afford. And 2, I think is we can be the most mindful about teacher time and needs. So we're limited. We can't provide this training by ourselves right now. That's not an option. You have to contract with a trainer that's approved by the state to offer this. So that limits us.
I think one of the other pieces of the alternative planning is that no matter, like, let's say we had an option A and an option B, those 2 options still may not work for everyone. So we have this option and then it's talk to your principal, talk to us, and we will have, because whatever we came up with may not also work for someone. So it's really a case by case basis after that, so we can figure it out. It's taken a lot of work to get to this point, and I appreciate Kyle's thanks we had a good conversation, and it's a lot, and it's fast, and there's a lot going on, and this is not how you would intend to set up a training for 150 people with a lot of required, this isn't how we would roll this out. It's
not ideal.
Bound by many timelines that we're not. So we're trying the very best, but I think that the reassurance for people is we are human, and what we know, every plan isn't going to work for everybody. So as soon as we can communicate this, and here's the expectations, there's a lot of asynchronous virtual learning that people will have their own set aside time that they will be able to do that. It's not just all in person. So
I do appreciate Crystal and Kate, the creativity and kind of figuring out a solution for this. I think it is a pretty good way of doing things to have teachers not come in more in the summer even, and then to try to save the district a little bit of money in the process as well. So I do appreciate that. So the 2 things that I think from Kyle to ask about, I know you said the pay was something that's in the handbook. Because the district is saving money, is that something that could be considered a different rate of pay?
We're still spending a lot of money.
Yeah, for the training.
Yeah, and the teacher and the time. So the figures that Crystal gave last week, we're incorporating what the handbook cost would be. It would be about double. Is that what you said? Is that what you calculated?
Double like we did per diem versus extended contract, but that also paying per diem wouldn't align with the nature of the work that the handbook says. So I guess that's something we need to be mindful of.
And this is not to say I don't agree with that, but as an educator in Wisconsin, this is an training you have to complete. So for nurses, you have to do so many continuing education hours per year that you don't get paid for, but it's required to keep your license.
Yep.
So I think
Similar.
the fact that there is payment
Sure.
is really great. Obviously, the time frame isn't ideal, but to kind of consider that on both sides too is.
And to just clarify that point, we didn't say this last week. So if I complete the training, I will then have a certificate in my name that I can provide, so we're paying for training that people could potentially use in another district if they didn't leave us, which would not be
Yeah,
our.
it's valuable to
Right,
each
like,
educator.
it is our hope to provide that training, pay for that training.
And they stay with us,
It's attached to the educator
Mhm.
along with their license.
Mhm.
Is there any discussion about childcare? I did think of that because obviously elementary age kids are more apt to need somebody watching them. And if we still have kids at the middle and the high school, then siblings aren't that option.
Meaning for families or for the staff?
For the staff, for the teachers
Oh.
that need childcare so that they can attend these trainings. Is there anything available that we could have, just send out are you going to be needing childcare for this? If so, send ages of your kids. We can try to, do something for you. Is there any option for that?
We actually discussed that a bit. We have offered that in the past when we've had like our summer, like optional professional development institute.
Mhm.
We have found that, during those times, when push comes to shove and people don't necessarily need it,
Utilize it.
we would certainly need to, I guess, ask the way to provide that
Yeah.
because we're all gonna be in this training.
Yeah.
Um,
But could some of our paraprofessionals or, I don't,
Because those are hours that they're not getting that they would be getting.
And it's also savings for the district too, but
right, yeah,
not,
but
Those are probably.
if it's not super,
yep.
Yeah.
Well, and we've already budgeted for.
right,
And it would be limited in comparison to
right, it would be a normal.
2 days.
It's something we can investigate.
Yeah, we'll be sending information to teachers and we consider how we could ask if there would be a need for that.
Maybe start with your meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about long-term training, like a trainer of trainers, so to speak, and or we have X amount of elementary teachers resign at the end of the school year. Now we hire new people. They don't get any training until sometime in maybe in August as new teachers and or then the following years.
Just know that the law says that anytime someone changes to a new grade level, I think I might have explained this last week, that wasn't required in the law. They or if someone were new to our district as a teacher and they haven't had this training before, we have to train them within 6 months of their hire. And if you spread that out over time, assuming wouldn't necessarily all be able to happen in the summer, that's kind of a short time frame. Jen and I just did one of the trainings and it was 5 months long. So there is a law that we will have to support them in that in the future. The training to become a trainer is a week long and quite expensive. However, we are planning ahead for our 2 elementary instructional coaches to become trainers for the future. That training to be a trainer is only offered every couple of months. So they're going to attend that training much later this spring. So then we could utilize them for training in the future and not have to contract through companies, but we simply just don't have the time or resources to become facilitators ourselves right now. So we got a plan, Steve, is the answer to that.
Yes, thanks. Is there any further
No,
discussion,
I think just
questions?
reiterating that no matter what we choose, A, B, C, it's not gonna, there's gonna be a conflict for someone. And so hopefully, people appreciate that it's 2 days of already on the calendar days. We're trying here, trying.
So again, to clarify the motion in the second, the Act 20 training requirements, and then the adjustment to the 2023-24 calendar. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. There were no discussion items, informational items at the committee of the whole meeting on January 2nd. Crystal Hinsman, Director of Curriculum and Instruction, spoke to all of us about the financial literacy requirement that is coming. Dina Hagan, our Director of Student Services, provided us with a very nice report on our Student Service Department. This time I'd accept a motion for the Teaching and Learning Committee report.
Motion accept.
Second.
Motion and second to accept the Teaching and Learning Committee report. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next was the Policies and Rules Committee. One action item, administration proposes the approval of changes to the following policies based on Neola recommendations in order to be in compliance with state and or federal law updates. Second reading of policy 5722, school-sponsored publications and productions. Just a reminder that we completely wiped out what we previously had, and this is a whole new policy.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept the policy 722, school-sponsored publications and productions.
And two of our teachers are here tonight, if you have any questions for them. So,
Any discussions or any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. There were no discussion items. There were no informational items.
Motion to accept policy and rules committee.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept the Policies and Rules Committee report. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next is the Legislative Committee report. There are no action items. There was one discussion items, review of the 2024 proposed resolutions for the WASB Delegate Assembly in our proposed resolution packet.
Anything change from anybody?
Did we get clarity when and where we gotta be?
Yeah.
What time?
It's all on the schedule. Yep.
There were no informational items.
Motion to accept legislative committee report.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept the Legislative Committee report. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Other reports by members of the board.
We had our CISA Board of Control meeting. December, January, I don't even know. Not a whole lot on the agenda. I think the biggest thing that came out, which I'm sure we'll all continue to hear a lot about, is the AI features that are coming up, across obviously all parts of the country and popping up everywhere in businesses. And certainly the schools are affected by that as well with students, but also teachers and the resources. There's a lot of really great things that'll be offered for teachers, but it's also, it's a double-edged sword. So I'm sure we'll be hearing more on that. And that's probably some stuff that's going to be covered at the WASB convention as well.
yeah, and I think our director of technology plans to talk a little bit about it this spring. We've been working with our admin team. Just last week, we talked about this, and the development of AI is so fast that we have our Future Ready team that meets monthly, that's trying to look at what's positive, what's negative, and how do we make some recommendations to the board regarding some policy work around this. I would anticipate that maybe next fall, but I think Erin will share some updates when she does her presentation this spring.
Yeah, and we can assume there'll be probably a lot of Neola recommendations and changes.
Actually, there's a lot of different agencies that have some options for us. So it may be broader than Neola. We'll certainly bring that forward too.
Any other reports? All right, district and program highlights. Anything further, Amy?
No, I think just, we met with our admin team on Friday, and part of that conversation was budget development and rolling out communication. They helped with some kind of big messages that needed to get pushed out. So we're working on getting that information out to staff this week, as well as families in our newsletter. And I have a plan to distribute some of the information to staff regarding the survey that they completed for us back in December too. So that's kind of our work right now.
And finally, consideration of bills and pre-approved bills. State's keeping up with their requirement of filling our coffers. We'll need a motion and a second on this.
Motion to approve paying the bills.
Second. Motion to pay the bills and pre-approved bills. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. It's time I'd accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion and a second to adjourn for the discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
When's your next meeting? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotta get there.